guys, I'm Kim Kral. I am reporting to you not live from my closet. Hi, everybody. Hi. I am having a really good day. I think a few weeks back, maybe a month ago, when I was, one of the episodes, or maybe several of them, I don't know. I wasn't doing very well. I'm not doing really well, like I knew it was temporary, not as hopeless as I once was when I felt that way, years ago. I just, struggling, a lot of hits, a lot of friends dropping like flies. Not in a dead way, just like in a not being my friend anymore way. Because that's kind of what happens when you start to level up, when you start to go to the next level. And I know that every time I've shifted me and shifted where I'm at and I level up a little bit, I lose some friends, and it's not any hard feelings. It's none of that. It's just, just the way it goes. People outgrow each other. Right. But like, it's so cool. Cause like, I want to say a month ago when I was recording, it was like, just keep swimming, and I'm really glad today that I did just keep swimming. Cause if you're in a bad spot, just keep swimming, man. Cause it gets better. All the stuff that was really fucked up a couple of weeks ago now is sort of coming. It's, I've figured it out, or, things have just, I don't know. We have a lot to cover today. We have a lot to recover here, not live in my closet. Yeah, so I had my lung test, long anticipated lung test, right? Who knows? Who fucking knows? The woman doctor who was administrating the test. I don't know. She was like, I was explaining my breathing stuff, and she goes, "Oh, I used to have that, and it was just anxiety. So maybe you just have anxiety." And it's just like, it annoys me more when it comes from a woman doctor. That's why I mentioned she was a woman. It annoys me more. I don't know if you guys know this, but like statistically speaking, like on record, men have more heart attacks than women. But in reality, like women have this, we are prone to heart attacks just as men are. We're just diagnosed as anxious. When a woman goes into the hospital with a heart attack, having a heart attack, more often than not, they don't think it's a heart attack. They tell her she's anxious. Just like with, when our periods used to be hysteria. It's just, and so the woman was, I was just like, well, I hear you. I see what you're saying, but isn't it a little odd that I've been pretty anxious my whole life and haven't really dealt with this until right when I got COVID and it stuck around? It's just like, and she was like, well, there might not be any answers. And honestly, it's because we don't know a lot about long haul COVID. And so that's not great news. But I am, I'm like mentally preparing myself for it to just be like, we don't know. Just as long as honestly, my doctor just keeps giving me my inhaler. My inhaler helps me breathe. And as long as he's not one day, because I've had doctors before be like, and this was antidepressants years ago when a doctor was like, I don't think you need that anymore. That was awful. That was when I was real suicidal. Thought I was going to kill myself. You can't just not that I switched doctors. Don't worry. I probably should have reported him, but yeah, you can't just stop antidepressants. They really, really fuck with your head. So I think I'm just like, I'm triggered by it, I guess, that, in the past, a doctor has just been like, well, you don't need this anymore. And you're like, well, I kind of do. And they're like, nope. So I know that that's not the experience now. So I've said it a bunch recently, and it's really actually like, I used to play, future trip, like stay in just like obsessed with the wreckage of the future, and just like all the different ways everything could go wrong so I could prepare myself. And I just don't really do that as much as I used to, or really anymore at all. Like with it, like I know I was like, I'm going to mentally prepare, but I'm not going to be like, I don't have high expectations. First of all, they said it's going to take like 3 weeks. It was so weird. So they like strapped a thing to my mouth, and then I had to do these like crazy deep breathing, attached to this computer. And then they strapped a bunch of shit to my body, and I had to walk up and down a hall for 6 minutes. And I don't know if you've ever paced for 6 minutes while a person watches you. It was an interesting experience, to say the least. I mean, it's so funny because she like, she was like, all right, you 1 minute down, you're doing good. And, like, because I was just like, it's just really weird. This is just weird. there was only one thing that she was like, that was kind of alarming. She's like, while we were walking to the test, she's like, your blood oxygen levels dropped, and that shouldn't happen. And you know, we were sitting in there, and I was like, it feels really weird. It feels weird to hope something's wrong. And she understood what I meant, which, you know, I really appreciate. Besides the anxiety comment, she was pretty awesome. She was like, no, I totally get that. I know that you just want answers. You just want to understand why your body is doing what it's doing. I totally get that. I'm like, I don't hope it's like emphysema, like that one guy said. I mean, I don't like obsess about it, but just like, what a casual fucked up thing to say, huh? So we finally did that. Hopefully we will find out very, very soon. I will, you know, obviously keep you guys updated. I'm making my TikToks. They are all going to be out in, you know, I'm making a bunch of them. So in order to actually be effective on TikTok, I've read a bunch. I know you guys know that I was trying to grow my TikTok, and I was like, oh, I'll post one video a day. Nope, not how you grow on TikTok. You have to post like 4 videos a day. So I've been compiling and editing videos, and my goal is to launch on April 1st. So stay tuned for that. I just got these new leggings. I've been working these festivals, right? So I work for this event company, and this weekend was really rad. Like normally they're like EDM shows, which, you know, if you're an EDM fan, you know, cool. It's just not really my thing. So I never look at the lineup, but like I'm working a massive festival this weekend, and I never know who's performing. Like when I get there, they're like, you know, Turn Up and Jason Priestley are performing. I don't know why I said Jason Priestley. That's a person, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was an EDM DJ name now too. You know what I mean? Modest Mouse, I think, is a thing. But so I never look at the lineups, because I just don't know who anybody is. But I worked, and like this last weekend, I worked an old school hip hop fucking festival. I saw Macy Gray. Macy Gray performed. The Roots performed. Nas, he sang "If I Ruled the World." It was really, really awesome. And I want to say old hip hop fans are a lot different than the rave kids. There was one guy he was awesome. He actually DM'd me. I need to respond to him. He was really, I don't know, we just like clicked. He was really awesome. His wife was there, so not clicked in a sexy way, just in a, you know, whatever. Like he was just really cool. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I'm on some drugs. And I was like, still not like the rave kids. What drugs? And it was just like shrooms and ecstasy. And he was just like, I'm just enjoying the music. Like he was just like, the rave kids are exactly what the stereotype rave kids drugs look like. But I don't know. It was like the festival itself was really cool. I've made a friend with this girl in the last few festivals, and we got to bartend next to each other, and she's just really rad. And so, you know, I'm really starting to enjoy working with this company. And you know, it's like a couple of days a week, and the money is really good. I don't know when the next one is, so I might not have but you know, like it's just really rad. But there are like mixed people that, like, it's like a mixed bag of humans that work for this company, and some of them have really problematic opinions and I will tell you about them now. So we have to be vaccinated in order to work for this company. And in order to get into these festivals, you either have to be vaccinated or you have to take a test, should like prove a negative within like 24 hours or some shit, or they give you a rapid test there. Like that's like, you have to be vaccinated or test negative. But to work with this company, you have to be vaccinated. And so we're checking in the morning, and there are 2 girls that I don't know. One I've never seen in my life, the one I'm about to talk about, and the other one I've seen at a bunch of events, but this is the first time she's ever like been nice. She's kind of like one of the girls that's like, or one of the women that's like, I worked for this company a long time. Like how I was big wangs when I was like circa 28. You know what I mean? Like, but this woman's like 45. But like the like mean girl, like I know what I'm doing and I've been here the longest, so I get the cool bar, you know, whatever. And I get that. I look at her and I'm like, hey, I used to be you. Totally. Now I like, and at the time that was as big as my fishbowl was, you know, and this is as big as this lady's fishbowl is. But so we talked or whatever, and we were talking about how I got hired. And I, you know, it was like completely by it's 111, 111. Just so you know, if you see those angel numbers, it means some cool shit's coming your way. But yeah, I got hired by this company almost by accident. Like I was working at the nightclub, and I was working a happy hour one day, and there was these women that ran this event company, and they would come in, you know, during happy hour when I worked. And one weekend, like 4 years ago or whatever, they were like, "Hey, you want to work Pride this weekend?" And I was like, "Nope." And they were like, "You'll make like $600." I was like, "All right, I'll do it." Cause like Pride is a lot. I mean, it's fucking rad. And I, you know, obviously I support it. I love it, but like, I am not a crowd person. I don't like those big crowds. And so like I can do a bartending because you have the big bar in front of you, but it is still like a nightmare getting in and getting out. But when they said $600, I was like, yeah, I can be bought. I think I ended up making like $800 actually. So, but I never heard from the company again. And then last year, when things were starting to reopen, I got an email from the company asking if I wanted to work. And so when I started working, they were like, "Oh yeah, they had an issue because a lot of the employees refused to get vaccinated. And their policy is you have to be vaccinated in order to work for this company," right? And so I was talking to these two girls about that. Well, I was just like, yeah. So then I think I was like, I think I got rehired, or they brought me on because they lost so many employees because they refused to get vaccinated. And one of the girls, not the girl I've never seen before in my life, she goes, "Oh, I got around that. I have a fake vaccination card." And I was like, "Oh, Jesus. What was your name again?" Because I'm like, I'm going to fucking report you. Like, that is so fucked up. It gets worse. I was like, "Oh," she wouldn't tell me her name again. I didn't know how to casually ask right after that, but I told the manager that I'm becoming buddies with. I was like, "Do I tell you about that?" Or like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, point her out because that's fucked up." It is fucked up. It puts everyone at risk. It's just really fucked up. And it's just so funny, like not haha funny, but the same people who are creating fake vaccination cards are the same people that are mad about legal or illegal immigration, like any kind of immigration. Like they're like mad, you know what I mean? Like that are mad about like fake documents to get into this country. It's just like a weird, hilarious, fucked up irony, you know? And so she was like, "Yeah, I have a friend who's like a doctor and she like just signed one for me or whatever so I could work." And me and the other girl you could tell was like, "Jesus Christ." And I was like, "Thank God I don't know you and I don't consider you a friend because otherwise I'd be rattled too." And then she said next, she goes, "I mean, I'm going to nursing school, so I have to get vaccinated anyway." And it's like, ew, don't be a nurse. Don't be a fucking nurse. If you don't believe in vaccines or you think it's okay to do what you just did, you clearly don't care about people enough to become a nurse. I was just like, yuck, yuck. And then another woman that was like, thank God she was just breaking people. So meaning that she was like going from bar to bar, letting people go on their breaks. So I didn't have to bartend next to her for very long. But trans athletes came up and in front of the manager I'm becoming buddies with. And he was like, "I didn't know how I was going to diffuse that." And then he was like, "You just walked away." And I was like, "Yeah, because obviously that woman is ignorant." But yeah, she started talking about the trans athlete. And I believe there's a woman swimmer who just won the gold medal, and trans woman. And I don't follow it enough, the Olympics, to know any of this. But I also have, you know, I've met enough people, read enough articles. You know what I mean? Like I don't have ignorant point of views about it. But she was like calling this woman an it, and halfway, and she goes, "Yeah," and it was like won the gold medal. And I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna stop you. I have really, really strong opinions about this. And I don't really want to have this conversation." And she was like, "Well, I understand, but like, it's just like biologically, like you're not a woman." And I was like, "Hey," and this is my favorite mic drop, by the way, when somebody is saying ignorant transphobic shit, every time it makes them shut the fuck up. I was like, "Hey, just out of curiosity, have you ever met a trans person? Do you know a trans person, like personally? Have you ever been able to talk to a trans person, like their point of view or where their experience? Or are you just spouting off shit you don't understand or know nothing about?" And she like stared at me and was like, obviously I've met a trans person." And I was like, "Okay." And then I was just like, "All right, well, I'm going to turn around and bartend because you're not somebody that I'm able to like kindly educate or guide, or you're not having questions. You're just spouting off ignorant hate. She avoided me the rest of the day. And then the manager came up and he was like, yeah, that you stopped that whole thing in its tracks. And I was like, I know. He goes, I do have a question about athletes though. Like, I guess I don't understand. I'm like, do you think this woman decided to change her gender identity, take hormones, which completely changes your whole body, lose probably every personal relationship she's ever had, because a lot of trans people lose all their core support with family when they decide to be who they fucking are. So she loses potentially, if not all of the people, like some, if not all of the people in her life. Completely transforms her whole body, possibly under a knife, to win a gold fucking medal. And the manager was like, oh, now that you put it that way. I was like, yeah, it's just a really dumb thing. It's just a dumb opinion. It's a dumb opinion with like a simple. And then the manager came up and was like, the manager, I mean, yeah, he's like the suit, whatever. He came up and he was like, oh, thank God. I was like worried about, he's like, I was like sitting there being like, fuck, how am I going to diffuse this? And I'm like, no, I just don't, if you can talk to someone, you talk to somebody for a few minutes, you can kind of figure out whether or not there's somebody who are like open-minded to listen to other opinions, or if they're just like, no, I'm only gonna kneel. Like, I just can't imagine. Yeah. Like heels in the sand, standing and dying on this hill of like transphobic, ignorant shit. And once again, I say it all the time, and I'm going to say it again. I probably say it every single episode. If you have an opinion and literal Nazis agree with you, you may be missing something. Unless you want to be on the side of Nazis. You know what I mean? Like if like literal Nazis are like, yeah, I agree with her, you should be like, oh, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. That's a minimal baseline, but that's what every time somebody starts talking about trans rights, trans anything, and they're saying transphobic bullshit, ignorant shit. That is the question I ask, and 100% of the time the answer is no. I've never ever met a trans person. Or their mouth is wide open, and then they try to like be like, well, yeah, of course. Where it's like, well, you're obviously lying, you dumb bitch. Good thing this woman does not live rent free in my head. I wrote her down, and I had forgotten all about her until this moment, because I just wanted to talk about it when my Jeff May and I have our monthly Patreon exclusive podcast called Fine, We Have a Podcast, and we talked about pronouns I think last month or the month before. And we talked about pronouns because a lot of people who are, a lot of cis people think it's overkill to put their pronouns in, like if like you're, in their profiles of their like Instagram. They're like, why do I have to do it? I'm obviously a woman. And isn't it a little overkill? And Jeff and I talked about it a lot, and it's not, it's more about the inclusivity. It's more about making it the norm to identify your gender. So it's not weird for everyone to identify their gender, if that makes sense. But he and I talked about it for a good half hour, and maybe not a half hour, probably 20 minutes. I don't know. We talked about it for a while. If you're a Patreon subscriber, thank you. First of all, but you go back and listen to it. But Jeff got an email from one of his listeners of his podcast who listens to ours. And he was like, thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys touched on that, because I thought it was overkill and didn't think it was necessary. And I hadn't heard that perspective yet of, just the inclusivity and making it the norm to identify. And so that is, I will talk to anybody about any issues. If they are, you can tell when someone is like, I want to learn. I know I don't know much about this. This is my opinion, but I don't know if it's, I don't know much about it. You seem to know a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, but someone who's just saying that shit, that hateful shit to someone that this bitch didn't even know my name. Like we didn't exchange names. Like, I don't even know this bitch's name. And she felt comfortable enough saying that shit to me. That person is not worth my time, but so I just walked away. So that was my weekend. The fake vaccination bitch. I've never actually met somebody like that. And also I'm sure I have, but I think most people who are fake vaccinationers I don't think that's the right word for it, but most of them are pretty secretive about it, right? I mean, I don't know this woman's name. I don't even know if I can recognize her again. And she felt okay just telling me. And I know that snitches get stitches, bitches. What is it? Snitches get stitches. But I'll throw anybody under the bus when it comes to shit like that. Like, that's just, like, it's not cool. It's just putting people in danger. A lot, immune compromised people might go to that place thinking, okay, well, everyone here is either negative or vaccinated, so I'm safe. And before you come at me with like, well, if you're immune compromised, you shouldn't be going to a festival. So those people should just have to like not go out in the world anymore because there's people like that woman who lie about their vaccination status. Trash. Okay. So then all right, I've got a couple of other things. So my birthday this year, my plan, so I'm turning 40. It's so funny. I think I'm supposed to be like sad about it somehow. This is the happiest I've ever been. And this is the happiest, the prettiest, the smartest, the funniest. You know what I mean? This is like me peak. I'm living in my best timeline right now. And and the further I go along in the life, the happier I get. And in turn, the better the people are, the prettier I am, the funnier I am, the more I know. You know what I mean? And I keep saying the prettier. It's just like when my outsides always reflect my insides. And so I can't imagine that just stopping at 40, I don't know. I love, it's just society telling me I should be ashamed of being a 40-year-old woman. What? But so my plan for my birthday this year was to have like a staycation, rent a Hollywood Hills house. I have a couple friends that live out of town. I was, they were going to fly in, and then I was going to have a party with my LA people, and just like a big house party at this like mansion in the hills. We did this for my buddy Dave's birthday, 50th birthday, a couple of years back. And it was rad. It was fucking rad, right? It was so much fun. It was all sorts of people. But the more I was planning it, the more I was feeling, it just didn't feel like what I wanted. I didn't want another drunk birthday, and not that it needed to be that. Like, I could easily have had, Dave had Wixom was like, Wixom was like, I don't know, he was like 3 or something like that back then. So like it wasn't a drunken birthday it was a drunken birthday for me. I was drunk at that birthday, but I know I didn't have to have that. Like, it could be like people still could come and I could just sip champagne all night and like have a good time. And I was like, yeah, that's probably what I'll do. And, I was planning and looking at houses and asking who wanted to stay in the house. And I had a couple people be like, absolutely. And some maybes. And, it just didn't feel right. It just felt like I just was not excited to plan this. Right. And so I've been doing this thing lately where I've been giving myself permission to shift plans, change my mind, change gears. You know what I mean? We'll get to that too. There's some comedy stuff. I'm not quitting comedy, but there was a moment where I was thinking about it. Right. And I had a conversation with myself where it was like, you know what, you don't have, like, you can change your mind. I think that if we like tell everybody that we're a certain thing and we're afraid to be like, never mind, I'm not that anymore. I want to do this instead. I haven't done comedy in a couple of months. I mean, I did it last week. We'll get to that. That was kind of where I was like, do I quit comedy? It was one of the worst shows I've ever had in my life. And not because I was bad. It was just one of those fucking, we'll get to it. I keep, take a drink every time I say, I'm just going to get vulnerable and share a bunch of shit right now. So I think that's why I'm hesitant. But I think like I've told enough people I was going to have this big birthday party and enough people were kind of excited about it that I was worried about changing my mind, that I would let people down, that I would, and I was just like, all right, well, let's just be open to the idea of doing something else instead of this big birthday party. And, a few days later, I've been doing a lot of meditating and a lot of mindfulness practices, which has been probably one of the reasons why I'm feeling so good now. I kept swimming and my mind's pretty clear and I'm really present. And this voice popped in my head that was like, go to Thailand. I was like, whoa, like my passport's expired, guys. Like I haven't been out of the country and, since I was like a child, and like that's never crossed my mind. But that voice was like, go to Thailand. And I was like, huh. And by the way, it's not that hard to, renew your passport. I Googled it. I'll get it in 6 weeks, which is plenty of time. And it's super easy. It's all done by mail and it's not that expensive. Which is that was the first thing. I heard the voice and I was like, interesting. And then I let it go for a day. And then things kept popping up about going to Thailand, like random signs here and there. Right. And so I Googled how hard it was to renew my passport because I was like, I don't even know if it could take months. And it's like, no, max, it'll take 2 months. And I'm at the 3-month mark for where my birthday is. So if I do it right now, I should have it in time. Right. Or you just expedite it. Which also isn't that expensive. And so I was like, all right, that's another sign. So I started, Googling and looking up TikToks and, blogs and all that stuff. And it was just like, and then I looked how much it would cost. I just went blanket 10 days, blanket, like all inclusive package, flight, hotel, right? Which I'm not going to do. I'm obviously going to get the flight and then I'll get to that. But I looked that up and it was less money than I would have spent probably on this Hollywood Hills fucking party, but definitely less. And I was like, oh shit, I think I might be going to Thailand. And then I showed up to this festival this weekend, right? I showed up to this festival and I have this little buddy that I see. I love this guy. He's like, I don't know. He's like one of those people that he's either 22 or 55. Like you're not clear. You have no idea. He's always got earbuds or like big ear things on. What are these called? Headphones on, big ones. And he's always like kind of dancing and he's always got these beads and he always kind of smells like Red Bull vodka, right? Like there's always like a hint of that guy drank all the Red Bull vodkas last night, but he's like the most positive, like kind of cracked out dude. Like he's always like, yeah, man, all you gotta do is just nod yes. And then you're gonna make a lot of money. I always make a lot of money. I'm a lawyer. Like he's just my, and I love him. I have no idea what his name is. We've worked together for almost a year now, and I'm sure he doesn't know my name either. He calls me his tall girl crush. And so, because he comes to like up to my boob. So I see him, we're talking and he's talking to some hippie chick. Right. And I was like, dude, I think I'm going to go to Thailand for my birthday. And he goes, you should fucking do it. And I was like, yeah, it just popped in my head. So I don't know if that's crazy. It's like 3 months away. And I don't know if that's a crazy thing to decide to just do out of nowhere. And he's like, nah, man, not at all. And then he goes, and this woman right here travels the world like 8 months out of the year. And I was like, you do? And she goes, yeah, girl. If you want, I can help you plan an awesome Thailand trip, like a budgeted Thailand trip that will cost you not very much. You'll have an awesome time. She's like, what do you want? Are you looking for like Miami crazy nightlife style or like during the day Buddha meditation shit? And I was like, I kind of want to do both. And she's like, awesome. So I'm having coffee with that. So she gave me her phone number and I was like, girl, I'm so excited. Thank you. I was like, you might just change my life. And she goes, nah, girl, you're about to change your own life. I was like, why am I crying? And so I texted her yesterday and I was like, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And we're going to have a cup of coffee tomorrow. And she is going to help me plan my fucking Thailand birthday. How wild is that? And like, it's just, I've been working like crazy, like doing a lot of these bartending gigs and money is not, it's coming in. It's just a little scary, like where I leaped, right? I leaped by not going back to these bars and the net is appearing, but I still am like, oh God, what if I buy these tickets or this ticket and book all this stuff and then I lose everything? And it's just like that goes back to stay out of the wreckage of the future. Stay out of the wreckage of the future. And I don't mean like, how sometimes when people do the YOLO thing, which really they mean they just want to get drunk every day and not do their responsibilities. I don't believe that, but staying out of the wreckage of the future and still like doing what I'm doing. I'm working a lot. I just looked at myself in the mirror. My hair is still awesome. I'm working a lot and I don't think because I've made this choice, I believe in the universe conspires with you to make shit happen when you make a decision. Why I met this woman, why, all this stuff. So that's the plan. No more Hollywood birthday, which I am. And then, you know, it's so fun. So the one person that I was really, really excited about coming and was really excited about coming too is my little sister, who's my little cousin, but she's like my little sister, right? So I call her from here on out, I'm just going to refer to her as my little sister. Her and her brother, my little brother and sister, right? And her and her boyfriend were definitely coming, and I was like, oh man, I hope I don't disappoint them because they were really excited about coming, right? And I was like, really, I hope they understand. So I talked to her yesterday. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Our relationship is just like growing leaps and bounds in the last, like, since she lost her dad and, you know, my uncle, God, a couple of months ago. And we were already really close. We've been close our whole lives. But since this, our relationship has just like grown leaps and bounds. We both lost everybody that raised us. You know, but my dad, her mom and dad raised the three of us, and it was always the six of us. So, but her really, it's like, so I'm going to tear up just because her response to me, I was like, I got to talk to you about my birthday. I was like, I don't think I'm going to do the Hollywood Hill party. And she goes, okay. And I was like, I think I'm going to go to Thailand. And she goes, holy shit, you got to go to fucking Thailand. Go to fucking Thailand. And she was just like, yes, that's the plan. You're going to Thailand. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and then she was like, well, she has kids. And she's like, my kids we were thinking about coming out San Diego end of the year. And we'll rent a house out there. And we were thinking about that. And then she was like, and she goes, and I was talking, she was talking to her partner, and she was like, and we were talking if your birthday wasn't happening, maybe me just flying out for like a long weekend. And I was like, oh my God, because she's never been here. She's been to LA, but she's never been like, she's driven through LA, I believe, but she's never been here. Like she's never been here, like to see my life, right? She's never met Henry. She's never seen my home. She's never it's just like, oh, I just got so excited. So it's just, and like I said, I've been saying recently that a lot of my people are kind of dropping like flies because the only kind of, my, I call him my hamster sometimes too. My big, beautiful baby boy just walked into the room. Hi. The only kind of energy of people I want who are close in my life are people that are like, it's the Lizzo song. No, it's not the Lizzo song. What song is it? That's Rumors. What's the song? I don't know. Where it's like, was she my best friend? But there's a line in it that's like, I'm going to hype her every time. That's my motherfucking friend. Those are the only type of people I want in my life. You know what I mean? Like people who are just like, I'm going to hype that bitch every single time. And the fact that my little sister had that response was just fucking, just amazing. Just amazing. So yeah, quitting comedy. We'll get back to that. I'm not quitting comedy, but I had a show. First show, I haven't been on stage. Into January, I went on stage and it was okay. But before that, I hadn't been on stage since my Sirius taping. Remember, I believe it was the beginning of December, I had recorded for Sirius to be played on Sirius Radio. And it was right when around that time is when my uncle died like 6 days after that. So it was like, we knew he was, it was a hard time. And that was a lot of why I've taken the time off is just, I'm fucking heartbroken. I'm still heartbroken. And it will be a long time before I'm not. That guy was one of my favorite humans. I cannot believe I have a picture of him up, and the other day I walked by it and I caught my eye and I was just like, I can't believe you're fucking gone, man. But I kind of taking a break, and so I decided it's time to get back on stage. So I say yes to this show by this guy that I've met once or twice, and he's really nice and cool. And he was like, "Will you do my show? It's going to be a big event where comics and then later music. And those are always a little bit of those are always a 50-50 shot of being not great. Like sometimes you'll show up and they're fucking rad. And then other times you show up and it's not rad. It's less than rad. But I was like, yeah, it's, low stakes show, low stakes, I just stuttered, low stakes show for a return. That's great. Right. So I show up and there's a woman that I've never met before who's on the show, and she messages me and she's like, I'm really excited to meet you. And I was like, oh yeah. And I go to her page. She's got a bunch of followers, but I've never seen or heard of her before. And I was just like, oh yeah, okay. So I get there and I know a couple of guys that are on the show. It was really good seeing them, but there was some stuff that happened. So I get there at like the show's at like 8. I get there at like 8:02. And normally these shows are usually start a half hour after the time. This is behind the scenes. Most for you guys, most comedy shows start like a half hour after they say they're going to. Not really at the clubs. The clubs will start right on time, but like these hole in the wall indie shows, just because it's like people are never on time, right? So they're like, so they have them start. They have them, you know, they never start on time, let alone this started early. It had to have, because I got there and a guy was already on stage and he was like halfway through his set. And so I was like, oh shit. So I go in and I sit down and I know all the guys that are there and, you know, except for the guy on stage and the woman, but, that, you know, I sit down next to this kid and, you know, I hadn't seen him in a long time. I say kid because he's, you know, I'm almost 40 and I think he's probably like 22. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while. We hug and we're like, oh, hey. And he's like, hey, I wish I could support you. I already went up. And I was like, oh, you already went up. So they must have started at like 7:45, 7:30, a half hour early. And he's like, yeah, I already went up. So I got to take off. And I was like, oh shit. So the second guy gets off and he's done. And then they call me up and there's no one in there, by the way. There's literally, it's not like they started early because there was a huge crowd. There was literally no one in there. It was just the comics and one musician. And so I was like, okay, so I go up there. So in those situations, and if you're a comedian, you know, like that's how we perform sometimes, to literally nobody or just other comics. And that's just when you like try to work out new stuff, right? And I was planning on working out new stuff anyway, because it was like, whatever, right? Well, you kind of get there and you feel the room. If it was packed and it was a hot room, I would have probably done old work, like absolutely working material, but no one's in there. So I'm just kind of having a conversation with my buddy on stage. And I talk about my bisexuality for the first time on stage ever, and I won't be doing that again. I forgot. I couldn't figure out why I've been so quiet about it for so long. Men. That's why. Men. It's a fetish. It's a creepy, creepy fetish. Every dude in that place was like, oh my God, she fucks women too. And it's like, it was just like, it was so uncomfortable. It was so weird. So these 4 regular people come in like audience members, and one girl is literally 8. Like literally, I know she keeps getting younger every time we tell this story too. But literally 16. There's no way she's 18. There's no way she's 21. And you know, she's there. Her boyfriend's like, he's like, I'm 35. And he's like, guy wants to be a part of the show. And everyone, all the comics are making him a part of the show, which I find super annoying, but whatever. And we're like, how old's your girlfriend? And she's like, I'm 22. And it's like, no way that bitch is of age. I mean, she looked like she was literally 12 years old. And she had this big ass glass of wine. She could barely walk in her heels. It was just so, I was just like, oh my God, I can't. So then the woman that I don't know goes on stage and she's so fucking drunk. She's so drunk. Like she's like, can't even stand. She's reading her material, swaying. And I'm like, what is happening? So it turns out, so she gets off the stage and then, you know, my buddy goes on stage, my other buddy goes on stage, and it turns out the girl looks like she's 12, is in porn. She's in porn and we look her up and she's legit porn. So she's at least 18, but she looks so young. So that's a whole fetish thing. And then one of my buddies was like, oh, you know, he was like, I'm going to look her up. And I was like, fine. And that story, I don't know. I may tell another day just because it just, the whole thing, it just like the fetishizing, like, he's like, what kind of women do you like to fuck? And I'm like, come on, dude, you don't ask that about dudes. You're doing it. It's just so fucking creepy. It's just so creepy. So like, no, whatever. So we get done with the sets and the show's over. And then the drunk woman comes over to me and she gives me like, she's like, oh, it's nice to meet you. And she has no boundaries. She's talking really close to my face. So I keep moving back. And like soon I'm like up against the wall and she's like, you keep moving away from me. I'm like, yeah, you got a really big shot of tequila that you're like spilling all over the place. And I don't want tequila all over me. And she was like, oh, okay. And she puts on her tequila. And then she's like, well, it's nice to meet you. And she leans in for a hug. So she goes to hug me. And then she really gets in there and like hugs me, like won't let me go. And I don't know what came over me, but I like ripped her off of me and like grabbed her arms and was like, we're not doing that. Stop doing that. And she was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, yeah, what the fuck? Don't do that to somebody. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. So we go outside. My 2 buddies are outside and she comes out and she's like, yeah, Kim won't hug me. And my 2 buddies were like, yeah, we've known Kim like 15 years. I don't hug people I don't feel good energy from. If you give me weird energy, I don't want it. And I don't have to explain that. If I don't want to be hugged, I don't have to be hugged. Even if I've hugged you a million times before, I don't have to hug you. Same goes for everybody else on the planet, right? But we are explaining, and she's like, well, I'm this and I'm this, so I hug. And I was like, I literally don't give a fuck. I don't care. I don't care if you're fucking Santa Claus. I don't want to hug you. I really probably wouldn't want to hug Santa Claus either. So this is all leading up. So it's just like one of those nights. It's awful, right? And then so a couple comics are talking about a comic that had to move away who is a rapist. I know 3 women from 3 different walks of life, 3 different circles. They don't know each other, that this man has raped. He is not allowed in comedy clubs. I wouldn't say his name on here because I'm afraid of him, because he also has retaliated against people who have stood up to him being a rapist. And I don't want that kind of, but he is a trash can. And these 2 comics were talking about him. And I was like, oh, the rapist. And they laughed. And they said, we don't believe any of that. And I was like, why don't you believe any of that? Like, what's your evidence? Like, my evidence is 3 separate people who've told me 3 different stories, who don't know each other, who are, like, you can tell are genuinely shaken and afraid of this man. I also know he's banned from every single club in Los Angeles because he sexually assaulted people. I also know he had to leave town because of all that stuff. What's your proof? Because he's your buddy? And they were like, no, we just don't believe him. We just don't. And I was like, okay. And I'm sitting there, and it got weird. And I was like, are you guys being weird because I called out a rapist? And they're like, no, we don't care about that. I was like, of course you don't. Of course you don't. You don't have to ever worry about being on a lineup with a fucking rapist the way a woman does. Like, you fucking, I go to my car, and I was just like, I just felt so, like, the set wasn't great. There was nobody there. We had this whole set, the whole thing was just, I cried on the way home. And when I got home, I was like, do you want to be a stand-up comedian anymore? And it's okay if you don't. Like, it's okay, I think a lot of times if you want to be something for so long, like, I've been a comedian for so long, I've said I'm a comedian for so long, that it's scary to just change your mind or switch, especially because, like, your ego knows that people are going to be like, oh, she quit. And it's like, but it's none of my business what people think of me, and if people want to think I quit comedy, they, without even coming to me and asking why. But I think it's important that you're able to have that kind of conversation with yourself, And it was a lot like the Thailand thing, where I was just like, all right, well, let's put that out there. It's on the table. We'll think about it for a few days. We don't have to make any decisions today. I know those are 2 very different things. One is, traveling, but both are, life-changing, and actually, like, talking to yourself and being open with yourself. Right. And so I was like, yeah, we'll just, and I cried a lot that night. It was a really awful night. And the guy who ran the show messaged me and apologized for the weird night, but then also told me it was the best set he's ever seen me have, which is, like, really insulting. But I also think he copy and pasted that to every performer, because I'm like, dude, I didn't perform. I did like 6 minutes of kind of talking to my buddy, and then most of that 6 minutes was the 4 people with the porn star girl. I don't know. It was just, so I cried a bunch, right? Because it was a rough fucking night, man. And it was one of those nights where you were just like, I don't know, dude. So I got up in the morning, and I felt really hungover. I'm not drinking. I'm getting new headshots soon. Very exciting. But and I'll also, when we get to the poop scoop, I'll tell you, I can't drink for a little bit because of, oh God. Okay. Sorry. I should not text while I do this, but somebody is expecting me to call them in 10 minutes, and people get antsy and respond, like, like, if they're like, are you going to call? Are you going to call? I don't know if he was going to do that, but he was just one of those nights that was just, it was tough. And I, one of those nights, and if you're a comic or if you're any sort of dream chaser, that the ebbs and flows of chasing a dream. And then when it's bad, the lows are really low. And then I woke up in the morning, and it was like, okay, well, I woke up in the morning feeling hungover. I was wondering where I was at. I was like, oh, I woke up in the morning feeling hungover, emotionally hungover, not from booze, just like really, just like headache, tired. If you know what I'm talking about, emotional hangover. Yeah, it's like a real hangover, only you didn't have any alcohol. You just feel really drained, sad, headache, the whole 9. And I opened my email, and I got an email from the Sirius radio guy that all 4 of my bits were approved to be on Sirius XM and will soon be playing and rotating on 4 different channels. Fuck, right? What a fucking sign from the universe, right? The next morning was like, hey, your comedy is about to be played on 4 comedy channels. And I emailed the guy who's also a comedian. He's a good friend of mine. I emailed him back and I was like, dude, last night was literally one of the worst shows I've had in a very, very long time. I like one of those that makes you contemplate quitting at all. And I woke up to this news. You have to know how much this means to me. And he wrote back, and he's been doing it a long time, right? He's been in comedy years, like 25 years, maybe longer. And he was like, yep, that's comedy in a nutshell. And it was just like such a but then I also was like, all right, well, what is my side of the street? And my side of the street is that I am too afraid to do bigger shows, go to the clubs with my open mic material, get passed at the clubs, hang out with hang out. Like I have a lot of peers that are doing things that I'm afraid to do. And they're getting passed at the Laugh Factory. They're getting passed at the Improv. And it's because they're fortune favors the brave. And that was the hard conversation I had to have with myself. Like, I'm not quitting comedy, but like, you can't, like these safe shows, which, a lot of times are like that and they're bad for my mental health. But like these safe shows where I'll show up and I know I'll be one of the funniest people in the room are not, it's made me hit a plateau in my comedy career. And so, I mean, more will be revealed. I'm on Sirius Radio soon. I don't know. The guy emailed me and said, I'll let you know as soon as you're on rotation. I like made an account for this. I like claimed my tracks. I put in my bank account information because I'm going to get paid for it. Like so fucking cool. And it's like a step where my dreams are coming true. And I know sometimes you need like perspective in order to really be grateful for these things. And it's really fucking awesome. And I probably won't do that guy's show again. Nice guy. Not going to do those shows again. And I think that woman unfollowed me. I don't know. She was a lot. Don't hug people who don't want to be hugged. Period. Full stop. So you ready for a poop scoop? So the poop scoop is a little rough today. So you know how I've had diarrhea? Because I don't have any poop scoop stories, guys. I'm out of fucking poop scoop stories. So I need, just kidding. What if I just kept yelling? I need you to send me some poop scoops. So if you've been on the fence, if you've been like, yo, I've pooped my pants or come close or have, some sort of embarrassing poop story, the criteria is not specific. I just really want to hear a funny poop story, whether if it was in your pants or somewhere in public, outside, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to hear a funny poop story. Send it to me at kimkralspace@gmail.com. If you'd like to do a voice memo, you can do that too. Just record it and, send it to me that way. And I'll play it live on the air. Not live in my closet, but it will feel like it's live. It'll be really fun. I might even put music to it. I don't know. No one has sent me a video yet or an audio recording yet. Please do this. You don't have to say your name. You can, you don't have to. If you want your name being said, you could say your name and be like, I don't mind if my name is being said, but please send this to me. kimkralspace@gmail.com. I have almost pooped my pants quite a bit in the last few weeks. So, I've been sharing that I've had really bad diarrhea for like 2.5 weeks and it's like really bad and it's not getting better. I went to the doctor and they gave me, she was like, there's not, I explained, I have a new doctor and I think I'm in love with her. She just listens and cares, but there's a issue that happened. So I get home and because I was late for the doctor's appointment because I was blowing out the toilet and I had to tell her and the nurse that her nurse is Nurse John. And he's like, I love you. I was like, I love her. And he goes, and her nurse. And I was like Nurse John. Like, he's like, you just make my whole day every time you come in. And I've had to go in a lot lately because of, all this stuff that's happening. And so I get home and my stomach feels like it's on fire and like I can't sleep that night. My whole chest and stomach hurts so bad. And so I have a family member who is a physician's assistant. So she's like a doctor. And I text her and I was like, girl, I think I have an ulcer. And she was like, explain what's going on to me if you think, with the ulcer. And I was like, all right, well, it feels like my stomach is constant. Like I'm doing a sit-up the whole time, like all the time, like a really hard sit up. And I was like, and it's like keeping me up at night. And I was like, that's really all I got. And she goes, how is your bathroom situation? Now, my bathroom situation has always been a little sketchy. So I didn't even think to mention that. But I was like, actually, in the last 2 weeks, it's just been like a fucking faucet, like emergency faucet butt peeing. Sorry. How many times can I say butt peeing on Kral's face? And it makes me laugh, I think, the same amount every time. But like bad. And she goes, yep, that's an ulcer. You have an ulcer. So good news is, I mean, it's not a good news that I have an ulcer, but good news why my butt's been peeing for 2.5 weeks. Like it was really starting to be like, get kind of scary. Right. And she's like, yeah, that's 100% an ulcer. And I was like, all right, well, do I need to go to the doctor? Is there over the meds? So she sent me over the counter meds. And she was like, if it's not better within like 7 to 8 days, you need to go to the doctor and get on antibiotics. But typically it'll clear up with these two things. So it's been like 5 days. I did have pretty bad diarrhea today, but that's been kind of par for the course. So maybe it's not IBS, maybe it's an ulcer. Oh, and then you're like, what gave you an ulcer, Kim? So I Googled, I was like, oh, because I had kind of a big drunken night at the nightclub a couple of weeks ago. I think I told you that when I bartended the nightclub, I drank a bunch one night. And so I was like, maybe I think drinking can cause it. And like, since I don't drink that much anymore, I don't know if you guys know this, but if it's healthier for you to like not, if you're going to be a heavy drinker, to do it a lot instead of, I mean, you shouldn't do it at all, but if instead of doing the periodic every now and again, get really drunk, because your body, it's a shock to your body and it fucks up your body more than if you're just used to drinking 8 shots of tequila a day. That's why when people who drink, like it's a whole thing. If you want to Google it, or we can have a conversation if you want, but I did a lot of Googling about it. A lot of Googling, and I talked to my doctor family member. So I was like, fuck, it's probably that. But then I Googled, and the very first thing that came up was over use of things like ibuprofen. Now, when I first got COVID and my headaches were so bad, and they're still not great, right? I had 2 doctors, and every other doctor after that agree with this was the solution. Tell me to take 800 milligrams of ibuprofen every 4 hours. When I saw my new doctor recently, I told her how much I was taking, and she was like, that is way too much. That's way too much. She goes, 800 every 8 hours, but every 4 hours, that's horrible for you. And then that's why she prescribed me some migraine medication, because I was like, it doesn't even really help, actually. Like I still get really bad headaches, even if I'm taking this. So the number one thing that causes ulcers is taking too much of that. So, I've ceased on all of the ibuprofen. I'm not even taking the whatever it's called meds. What is it? The migraine meds right now. I'm just sort of like living through the headaches. The headaches haven't been that bad lately, which is good news. But I don't know if there's ever been a person in the history of the world that's this excited about having an ulcer. I'm excited about having answers. It's the same like when I talked to the woman at the lung doctor place, where it was just like, I don't hope something's wrong with me. I just want an answer. Like my body shouldn't be doing what it's doing. Like I shouldn't be like really bad diarrhea every day with the doctor being like, I don't know. But now I have an ulcer. And I'm working to fix the ulcer. I'm not up all night, but my tummy does really hurt still. But so maybe I will have to go actually do like a tele appointment or something like that to get antibiotics. Who knows? But that's the poop scoop, is to tell you in a weirdly excited voice that I have an ulcer. I have an ulcer, friends and family. Oh, that's fun. Friends and family. All right. I think that is the episode, my dears. I am going to end it with why I am one lucky broad. I am one lucky broad. Got things just looking up, I'm really grateful for that. Things are coming up for the Kralski, and I'm really grateful that I have the tools that I didn't always have. I didn't always have the tools to keep swimming or know that this was temporary. I was in a really bad space a couple weeks ago, like where it was just like, and I knew that voice inside was just like, just keep swimming, just keep focusing on your shit. Meditate, don't stop any of this stuff. And I'm feeling really good and really happy and grateful and excited for the future. I feel like, I don't know, I'm getting new headshots by this woman who is just like in alignment with me. We talked on the phone for a long time, and she was just really rad. She's affordable and she's really good. She also is an actress, and she played Dexter's mom I'm sure she'd be fine with me telling everybody that. I don't know why I'm acting like it's anonymity, but she played Laura Mercer on fucking Dexter. Well, when we were on the phone, she was like, she was telling me what I needed to wear and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. And we were talking about actresses aging and how a lot of girls will come to her, women will come to her, and they will refuse to do like mom headshots, but they're like 45 and they're still trying to be the hot, young 22-year-old. And she was like, that's not where the work is. Like, if you want to chase that, you can't be an actress. Like, yeah, that's not where the work is. You're not 22 anymore. And she's like, did you look up my IMDb? And I was like, no, honestly, I didn't know you were an actress. And she goes, yeah, I'm an actress. She goes, I just do this because I love it. And that's why I'm so affordable. I've been doing it for 20 years. I just love doing it. She's like, look up my IMDb. And I was like, all right. So normally when someone says that, they have like, normally when someone says that, it's not really ever that impressive. I mean, it is, I guess, if you're not in LA, outside of LA, it's like, oh, fun. But like, if you in the industry, it's like, yeah, she's done work. But I'm a really big fan of Dexter, but this bitch has been in everything. So I don't know. I'm one lucky broad that like things are turning around as they always do. And I'm grateful that I have that knowledge when I am not doing well. Because when I'm not doing well, I still have my like voice inside that's like, everything's going to be okay. You're taken care of. Ooh, so exciting, guys. Lots coming up. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for every week for listening. If you would like to become a Patreon subscriber, I am working on, I know some of you have asked if you could do like a full membership up front, like just pay for a full year up front. I am still working with Patreon because they're like, no, you got to pick one or the other. So either everyone has to be a full year or no one can be. I don't know. I don't think that sounds right. It doesn't sound right. I'm recording with Jeff May after this, we do our Patreon exclusive podcast once a month. You should listen to that. And he's big on Patreon. So I'm going to ask him about that. I'll get more information. But if you would like to be a Patreon subscriber, I would love it. I have 2 bonus episodes, and then you also get early access to Crawl Space weekly. You get the episode week early every week. So there's that. And then if you want to buy my book, I would love that. Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. I am looking into getting it actually published, like in a bookstore, 2nd edition. So get the 1st edition while you can. I mean, it's not going to happen anytime soon because these things take time. But I would love it if you haven't bought my book yet. I would love it. I love it. I think that's it. Follow me on everything. Kim Kral. Leave a rating, review. Thank you for all your love and support. It means a lot. Be safe. Be kind. Just be fucking kind, man. Talk to you soon. Bye.